Hello everybody, my name is Greg. It's lovely to be with you again. I remembered my specs this week so I can read my notes. I just want to also, along with Peter and Bianca, acknowledge the traditional owners of this place, Turrbal, Yagara people, and especially thanks to Bianca for humanising the emotional experience, I guess, of 2023. I just want to offer respect to the elders, past, present and emerging, and all of their families who have endured an enormous emotional and often very brutalising experience this year. And my heart goes out to all of you. Thanks also to Peter, and I think I experienced the fruit of your labour yesterday. Yesterday was the 11th of the 11th, and I happened to be in the room with an ABC presenter, Karina Hogan. I don't know if you know Karina. She was interviewing Gajah Kerry Charlton on the subject of repatriation, and particularly the repatriation of language. It was an incredible discussion, but also incredible to be with them at 11 o'clock yesterday morning, where there was a pause. The pause was organised according to the end of World War I, and the treaty that was associated with that. And one of the things that Gajah Kerry brought forward at that moment was that there's no word for treaty in her language. There's no word for invasion in her language. There's no word for invasion in her language. Anybody that came onto their country was a visitor. And so this notion of invasion, how do you bring that out of your cultural consciousness if it's imposed on you from outside? The question that, not quite Sam, we're nearly there. Sam's my driver here. Let's see how we go. I'm the co-pilot. I'm a bus driver, by the way. We don't get co-pilots. We get passengers. They're excellent co-pilots. The question that Paul posed to me in inviting me to come to this, two questions actually. Why did you vote as you did? And it's like, why did you vote as you did? It's not just why did you vote as you did. Why did you vote as you did? Because I voted no. And what does treaty offer us that perhaps a voice to Parliament doesn't? And so that's what I'm speaking to. And I think that's a little different from the invitations that both of you are invited to. And I don't think we're responding to the same thing. So that's the breadth of offerings you're getting this afternoon. I found this slide particularly useful in reflecting on these two questions. We've got a slide here of 2023, 26th of January, March, and the invitation extended to those people to come on that march. Invasion Day 2023, Stop the War, Treaty for Voice, What Price is Freedom, Sovereignty Never Ceded, What Price is Freedom is repeated, Aboriginal Sovereignty, Not Constitutional Recognition, Brisbane Aboriginal Sovereign Embassy, Keep the Fire Burning. Have I got that right, Sam? I think I missed a bit, but basically that's it. This to me offers a reflection, I suppose, on a messianic motif for both the Yes and the No campaign. And the motif is this idea of a leader leading a crowd that's going to vote against them. And the irony of this, the feeling of the Yes campaign is the crowd voted against us. And that was enormously painful. The irony of this for me, or the interesting thing for me, is that they're approaching the fire. The invitation from the Brisbane Aboriginal Sovereign Embassy is to come to this fire. Most of the people in this image are probably voting yes, and the fire was advocating vote no. And so this idea of a leader who leads people who are going to vote against you is a very interesting theological motif. Next, thanks, Sam. Now, this content you will probably not find online unless you're one of the handful, and I literally mean handful, people who read my blog, because this has not been digitised as far as I know, apart from by me. It's a 1785 comment by Joseph Banks between 1770 and 1788. He was facing a committee of inquiry, and they were asking him all these questions about transportation to somewhere. He was proposing a place he called Botany Bay. They said, have you any idea of the natives, of the government under which they lived? And Banks said, none. None whatever, nor of their language. Next, thanks, Sam. None whatever of their government, none whatever of their language. And I think this slide, one of the reflections we can get from this slide is, here we have a group of Aboriginal people grappling with the notion of what is our government without reference to the Federation. Without reference to the Federation. We were sovereign people. We had a government before those folks showed up. We didn't have a word for their arrival. But we did have a government. And then there's all this language on the side. Stop the war, treaty before voice. All of that stuff. We've got to try and understand, well, what does that mean when it comes out of that cultural consciousness? Next, thanks, Sam. These folks really inspire me, the Brisbane Aboriginal Sovereign Embassy, because of that. They have this leadership. They're trying to understand themselves as they are in this kind of sovereignty never ceded consciousness, independent of the Federation. And I think they're worth listening to, and so do all those people there, many of whom voted yes. This is the fire in full swing. It's not always that crowded. You can go there on Monday nights and hang out with them if you want. But these are the leaders. And next, thanks, Sam. These are 2016 photos. In that photo, there are quite a number of the current leaders who are leading these marches, leading these people, and many of them were advocating no locally in Musgrave Park. Thanks, Sam. In 2017, the Brisbane Aboriginal Sovereign Embassy came out with a statement saying we don't support the Uluru Statement of the Heart. And when the Uluru Statement came out, I thought, wow, that's a pretty great statement. What an amazing achievement that they have come up with. And then I thought, well, the local people who are trying to interpret and assert themselves out of this consciousness, we are our own sovereign nation, and we're actually an embassy. We're a diplomatic centre for a whole range of peoples. What's our government? They're thinking it through. They're in Musgrave Park. What is our government? What is our language? Even if we use English, out of a cultural consciousness that doesn't have the word invasion. Okay, next, thanks, Sam. So, I think if you're going to have a question, I think this image, this slide is probably a useful point to focus your reflection. I think it's a really useful coming together of these two ideas. Why did I vote no? What does treaty offer us? This is, I think, a really useful starting point. So, 2023, we know the referendum's coming. Next, thanks, Sam. Frontier War Stories. One of the leaders out of that group is a prominent podcaster, a prominent journalist, and he was championing no. Also in the media, increasingly, I suppose, as the year went on, people were increasingly seeking him out for what he has to say. But again, there's lots of people who are accessing his content are still not following him as such. They're enjoying the Frontier War Stories, but they're still voting yes, even though he's saying vote no. And so there's that real tension between, we're listening, we're not really with you though. That sort of thing was going on. And that was going on, I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm saying that was it. That's what's happening in our context in Brisbane. Next, thanks, Sam. 2018 came after 2017. This photo was taken, those are children actually holding fluorescent tubes. We were in a ditch opposite the Carrara Stadium, surrounded by mounted police on horseback. It was quite intimidating. Stolen wealth. And there was an opening ceremony across the road where Prince Charles was with 35,000 people. And these people were trying to send a delegation in to talk to Prince Charles. And this comes to this idea, well, when we want to make a treaty, who do you talk to make a treaty? How do you organise to say, we're a legitimate treaty-making group? Who are we talking to? Who's the legitimate participants? Who's the legitimate delegation? And so when you're talking about treaty, maybe the Queensland government isn't the legitimate delegation. Maybe it's Prince Charles, maybe it's the International Court, maybe it's the Yugambeh people. Who are we talking to when we're making a treaty? And actually, who is our legitimate governance structure? What is our legitimate governance structure for treaty making? And these are the sorts of questions that are being debated around the fire in Musgrave Park. and not just, but across the country in other governance formulating ideas that don't find their governance in relation to the Federation or its funding. 2019, more people going to the fire. Next, thanks Sam. 2020, Black Lives Matter, more people going to the fire. All the while, we don't support the Uluru Statement. Next. 2023, the referendum is upon us. This year is incisive. I love these meetings because I love the development in thinking that's coming out of these meetings around the fire and across the nation. They report back, and if I miss the speeches, if I'm too far away from them or can't hear them properly, I find someone and ask them, what's the latest thinking? And by this stage, they're saying Republic of Nations. We want a Republic of Nations amongst ourselves. Treaty making is between ourselves to start with. That's what we want. But then the referendum comes and it's reduced to yes or no. And then the no campaign completely ignores this other no that's there coming out of the embassy. Next, thanks. So we have these meetings around the fire, like, what are we going to do, you know, this and that, and I was handed a bundle of stickers that say, stop the war, treaty for voice. There you go. Do something with that. And my job became, what are you interested in? And I said, I'm interested in this and that. Okay, find us 50 pictures. Imagine you're making a coffee table book. It's oral culture now. Words out, you know. Next slide, thanks, Sam. Most of you who know me know I'm into this stuff, looking at scrawl on paper, on, you know, those, what are those machines called in the libraries? Microfiche. Yeah, that's my happy place, microfiche. You know, reading that makes everybody at the fire glaze over, you know. Back to that. So they said, find some pictures. Come on, find some pictures. What's the war? Show us the war in pictures. Next, thanks. Meanwhile, 50 of them. Find 50 pictures. This is July, Toowoomba Chronicle. Never at war. MP's claim on Indigenous. David Littleproud has reiterated the National Party's opposition to the voice and to a treaty, claiming the country has never been at war with Indigenous Australians. So we're in July. The voice of the, you know, these people thinking through governance at a sovereignty never ceded level, independent of the Federation, are speaking straight into relationship with what the other people who are called the No Campaign are saying. Next thing, Sam. Here's an example. Can you zoom on that in the middle, that little group in the middle there? This is one of the pictures I found. This is a picture of, if you can't zoom, don't worry. In the middle here, this is the capture of Bennelong and Colby in 1802. Caught like fish. Caught like fish. And we all know about Bennelong, but he was captured like a fish. He was lured, he was tied up, lashed to the boat, rushed out to sea before they untied him. Next thing, Sam. But this is the image that really interested them. They actually said, we're looking for stuff that people are overlooking. You know, I said, what are you looking for in these pictures? Like, I can show you lots of terrible pictures if you want, but what are you looking for? And they said, we want to find what people have ignored because that's important to us. And so this became new information. They said, well, you can see there's a bunch of blackfellas here in the middle, surrounded by soldiers. It's an artist's impression from 1970 of an event that happened in 1841. But they say, who are those guys? Who are those guys at the top? And that became like, that's been the subject of all of my correspondence ever. Who are they? When did that happen? What are their names? Blah, da, da. Freedom and, of course, prisoners. And, of course, we can see in even today's news, finding your prisoners is a crucial part of war. Getting your prisoners back is a crucial part of war. Next, thanks, Sam. Since the October 14, there have probably been 4 deaths in custody. That's 4 in 4 weeks. The week following the referendum, there was a very small rally to raise a, complaint against that. October 2023. Thanks, Sam. This is, what have we got? January 2023. This is interesting for me because marching treaty now, this sign here says, shame on you if you think this is bad. And this is the British coat of arms. That's the garter in the middle. It says, Uniswa ki malipons. Shame on you if you think this emblem is bad. That emblem is on your passport if you're British. It's on the top of the Times. It's all over the place. And it's on the soldiers' uniforms. Shame on you if you think these soldiers are bad. Who's that? His name is Thomas Brisbane. Okay, Thomas Brisbane in 1824 declared martial law on the Wiradjuri people. They're all over Thomas Brisbane. They're commemorating all sorts of things. He sent in detachments of a very hostile 40th Regiment. In September 1824, Thomas Brisbane sent a detachment of the 40th Regiment up here, and they directly engaged with three nations, the Ningi Ningi, the Quandamooka, and the Yuggabal. They all have different stories. The Ningi Ningi story doesn't represent the Quandamooka story. The Yuggabal story is not the Quandamooka story. They've all got a story to tell, and we need to hear all of their stories, and it's shaped them for the last 200 years. We're faced with 200th anniversary of this. I'm working with the Quandamooka people at the moment, and as on their arts subcommittee, for them to tell the story their way, not just to shift the commentary a little bit from, oh, Oxley did this, to, oh, when we saw Oxley. It's more like, it's a view from our space, and how do we conceive this information? How do we articulate this information when it's been so controlled from a British perspective? But ultimately, the 40th Regiment showed up, they secured the waterways, the fresh drinking water, they cleared the land, they cleared the people, they built forts, and you can find Brisbane's instructions to do all those things. Got it? Next. Miller, he was in charge. Next, thanks, Sam. So, for all of you people who love theological reflection, I urge you, as I did last time, read Judges 18 and discuss Judges 18 in your groups. These men are from the tribe of Dan. So I'll close out with this. So the 5 men from Dan left and came to Laish, where they saw that the people were living in safety, at peace and secure, and since their land lacked nothing, they were prosperous. These are the people in Laish. They reported back to their Dan friends, families, come on, let's attack them. We have seen the land and it's very good. Don't hesitate to go there and take it over. When you get there, you will find an unsuspecting people in a spacious land that God has put into your hands, a land that lacks nothing whatever. Then 600 men of the Danites, armed for battle, set out, and Laish became Dan. It's crucial reading for us who are faced with this arrival of the bicentennial of the 40th Regiment. That's enough for now. The treaty could be made with anyone, but it's important, the legitimacy. Who are the treaty makers? If we want to talk about even what happened, we need to know, well, what's the Quandamooka story? What's the Ningi Ningi story? What's the Yuggabal people thing? What's their story? And then we can go from there. And I think that's closely bound to this. I thought I deleted that slide, but there it is. That's it. Thanks, Sam. Can you go to the next slide, please? That's distracting. 2 more, that's it. Thank you.